All right, so please do share in the chat box your name, where you're located, and if you have attended a conference before, and whether or not you have presented at a conference before. Hello, Chiho-san. So no, you haven't, and no, great, you're in the right place. We'll be starting right from the beginning. Hello, Rie-sensei in Tokyo. Midori-sensei, no and no, great. Yeah, we'll be starting right from the beginning, learning about what is a conference, what to expect, as well as what to do when submitting a proposal. Hello, Rie-sensei in Fukuoka. Wonderful. Exciting that it will be your first time to present. Oh, another Rie-sensei, yes. We have two Rie-senseis tonight. Mika-sensei, welcome. So you have attended but not presented. Awesome, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight and for sharing about your experience. This will help me know what level of detail to go into. So tonight's session, we will be talking about writing a conference proposal. We'll talk about what this is and the different parts of it. Just a reminder and to let you know that this session is being recorded and will be later posted on the U.S. Embassy YouTube channel so that other people and teachers can go ahead and watch this recording if they were not able to come tonight. So we have a few different things we will cover tonight. First, we're going to talk about what is a conference, what to expect, what are the different parts. Some of you have said that you have never attended a conference, so this will all be new. And then we'll talk about what are the benefits of presenting at a conference. Then we'll talk about what is a conference proposal exactly, and the different parts. And then I'll give you some tips, and if we have a bit of time, we'll have a chance as well to brainstorm about what we might write in our conference proposals. So by the end of this webinar, you will be able to have a better understanding of what is a conference and what to expect, and write a proposal for a professional TESOL conference. So let's jump into it. The first is, what is a professional conference? So professional conferences are often put together by different organizations, and they are either a full day or multi-day gathering of different professionals in a specific field or area of interest. For example, it might be a professional conference on cybersecurity, on semiconductors, or on something like TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. And during a conference, there are many things that you can do. The main part is a chance to learn. During a conference, different people will present, some people in the field, people in that area of interest, and they'll give presentations, workshops, as well as demonstrations. So as a conference attender, you can go and watch these different presentations and workshops in order to grow and learn professionally. This is also a chance to network. So one of the great part of conferences is a chance to meet different people in your field. It's an opportunity to exchange business cards or contact details so that you can grow your professional network. So when you attend a conference, it's always a good idea to bring bring your business cards with you so that you can go ahead and share them with others. If you don't have a business card, that's okay too. It's okay to also just exchange contact details and write them down. All right, so lots of different pictures here, but I wanted to give you a visual of what different parts of a conference might look like. So the first part I'd like to talk about is what is known as the keynote presentation, or it might also be the plenary session. These are sessions where typically nothing else is happening during that time. There are no other presentations because the conference organizers feel that this is an important presentation to attend. Typically, these are prominent people in the field, experts with lots of experience, and they'll be either sharing some cutting edge research, knowledge, or something that hopefully will be helpful to you in your professional field. For the JTE TESOL conference in Tokyo this year, we'll have 2 keynote speakers, and you can learn more about them on our website. But they'll be talking about different topics like how to do action research in the classroom. So as classroom teachers, you may think, how do I know that I am making a difference in my students' learning? You'll be able to learn about that. And our second keynote presenter will be talking about different technology, such as generative AI and virtual reality in the English language classroom. The next thing that I would like to point out are the registration tables, and perhaps this is the first place that you will be going to when you enter a conference. So conferences typically happen at venues such as universities, at different conference centers, or at a hotel conference center. And the first place you typically go is the registration table. And this will be where you pick up your information, such as the schedule. You may have a name tag with your name and affiliation. And if there are any fees that are unpaid, you can have a chance to pay fees or get receipts. So the first place you'll go is the registration table in any conference. Now, some conferences have poster presentations. These are opportunities for people who may not be doing an actual presentation in a room, but they may develop a poster which will outline some of their research or something that they would like to share. Poster presentations typically happen with many different people in one room. As you can see in this picture, you can see that there are different posters on the wall. So typically all of the poster presentations are together. And the presenter, the creator of the poster, will be standing there to answer any questions. So you can go around the room, look and read the different posters, and then you can ask questions to the person about anything that you may want clarification about. Now, during a conference, there will also be many different presentations. These are often several presentations happening at the same time in different rooms. And so depending on the size of the conference, there may be 2, 3, 10 different presentations happening at the same time. Because you cannot clone yourself, this means that you need to decide which presentation you would like to go to. So you can go through the schedule and see which presentations sound most interesting to you that you would like to attend. Conferences often also have an expo or a vendor hall. This is a room with different tables where different people or organizations will be represented. Typically at a TESOL conference, you may see different universities represented, sharing about their programs. You may have publishers who publish textbooks or materials for English language. You may have people like us, the US Embassy, where we are sharing about some of our free resources and programs that we provide. So you can go around and have a chance to learn about these, as well as pick up some free stuff. Usually they have different flyers and materials. So it's always fun to look around, see what there is, as well as have a chance to interact with the actual people at the stalls. And then here you can see this is me at a conference, networking. And so this is an opportunity to chat with and meet other people, other professionals or the presenters. So it's a great chance to chat with others. So please, at conferences, don't be shy. Say hello to the people you're sitting next to. Say hello to people around you, because really the norm at a conference is that it is okay to chat with other people and to learn about what you're doing and to share contact details. So here is a sample conference schedule. Generally, you will have a time for registration. Remember, going back here, you want to go to the registration tables first. And then there may be some opening remarks from the conference organizers and some different keynotes. So this is not a real, but a mock schedule. We have 2 keynotes here, one at the beginning, one at the end. These are our actual keynotes for the JTE TESOL conference. And you'll notice that there are several different sessions. Now, depending on the conference, these sessions may be different lengths of times. Sometimes presentations are 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and that may be something that you need to select when you are submitting a proposal, how long you would want your presentation to be. So you can see that there are 3 columns. And this is because these 3 are happening at the exact same time. So in session 1, we see there are these 3 topics, and you must decide which of the 3 you would like to attend. Now, one other thing that I would like to mention is that you do not need to attend every single session. So maybe you go to this one, this session, vocabulary-based communication. You meet someone who's very interesting, a professional in the field. Maybe you have some aligned interests, and you start to talk. And maybe the next session, you, instead of going to one of the presentations, you decide you want to talk with this person. You want to continue that conversation. And so you decide that in the second session, you don't want to go to one of the sessions. You want to continue to network with others, right? And then maybe you'll go to a different third session, right? A Matsumoto session. And then session 4, you want to do, oh, interesting, reading improvement. Yamamoto session. And you'll go through, maybe you meet someone interesting, you decide to go to the vendors during a certain point. And so remember, you are in charge of your own schedule for conferences, and you can decide if you want to go to a session at all and which sessions you would like to attend. Any questions so far about what a conference is and what to expect? Feel free to, in the chat box, share any questions throughout this presentation. All right, so why should you present at a conference? Now, many of you, I think, are probably here because you are considering presenting at a conference and you maybe are nervous. Maybe this would be your first time. You haven't done this before. And I want to say that it is very normal to be nervous, and it is often scary to present to other colleagues, other professionals, but this is a really great opportunity. First, it's a great chance to network. What I have found is that when I present at conferences, more people are likely to come up to me and talk to me about my presentation and to connect with me than if I didn't present. So it's a great way to kind of highlight yourself and to really make those connections. It's also a great way to develop professionally, right? You become more confident in your public speaking skills. It's something that you can add to your resume or CV. It's something that helps you gain that presentation experience. Many of us as English teachers teach presentation skills to our students, so it's a great chance for us to practice ourselves and to also understand what our students may feel like. And I just also want to encourage all of you that you are the expert in your classroom, right? No one else can tell you what is right or wrong for your students, for your situation. And so you actually have a lot of knowledge to bring to other teachers or to other conference attendees. You have so much to share. And so it's a great chance to share knowledge, not just to receive knowledge from others, but to share knowledge with other professionals. So let's say you are feeling like, great, I definitely want to try and present at a conference. Okay, so how do I do that? Generally, before the conference, even before the registration for the conference is open, there will be an application that you need to create for the conference in order to present. And this is known as a conference proposal. A conference proposal is a piece of writing. It's an application, essentially, that will propose or share what you will present at a conference. And review committees or conference organizers will read through that, and decide whether or not to accept you and your presentation for that conference. Now, there are a number of different factors that will determine whether or not you are accepted, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The other thing that I would like to mention is that generally with larger conferences, the review committees consist of a large group of people or a group of people who are experts in the field. And typically they will remove your name. So even though your name is attached to your proposal when you submit it, when people review the proposals, they will try to make it as fair as possible. And part of how they make it fair is by removing any identifying information or names. And that's to make sure that, anyone in the committee who is reviewing proposals is not biased either positively or negatively by who you are. Maybe they know you or something like that. And then that way it is really about the content of your presentation or of your proposal that is being decided upon. Now, conference proposals are important for another reason. Conference attendees, so whoever is coming to the conference, will read your abstract and decide which presentation to go to. So I shared this sample conference schedule. How would I decide which of these 3 to attend? Well, I'm going to decide by reading the little summary about their presentation, which is submitted in the conference proposal. I'm going to read these three and figure out which one is most interesting to me. So remember that part of the proposal is not just to get accepted by the conference, but it's something that will be read by the attendees of the conference later to decide whether or not they would be interested in attending your presentation. And of course, you want people to come to your presentation if you are going to make the effort to present. Now, what is the purpose of this proposal? This is a document where you are trying to convince the reviewers to be accepted to present at their conference, but the way that you write is not persuasive. So we think about different categories of writing, right? Informative writing, persuasive writing, etc. And we often think when we're trying to convince someone, we need to be very persuasive and use this persuasive language. But actually, that's generally not what a proposal looks like for a conference. You need to convince them through the content and through the clarity of your proposal. Okay. So this is not something where you will be writing, you should accept me because blah, 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 and these are the reasons why. That is not how you will write an abstract or a conference proposal. So there are many different types of presentations at a conference. Two common ones are research-based and practice-based. So what does that mean? Research-based proposals are typically ones where you have a professor or a researcher who has been doing some research or conducting some research, and they are going to share their findings, right? So maybe they conducted some experiments, some studies, and then they want to show this is the growth or this is what the results were of that research. As classroom teachers, you can absolutely still do this kind of proposal or this type of presentation using action-based research. And so I hope that when you attend the conference, you'll go to Carlene Velez's presentation about action research to basically do this, do research in your own class. Now, the second type is practice-based. So this is something that is practical and can be applied immediately to the situation. For example, a practice-based presentation would be something like 5 ways to help your students speak more English in class, right? So maybe you are sharing some strategies, and those are things that other teachers can take and immediately apply into their classrooms, or maybe adjust slightly or get some ideas of how they would apply it to their classes. Okay, as I mentioned, the timeline is generally quite early on, right? For major conferences, typically, you may need to submit a presentation proposal up to a year in advance of the conference, maybe 6 months. So be aware of that and take note of the deadline. So the first thing to do is to develop the proposal and submit it before the deadline. It's very important to make sure to do this, as many conferences are quite strict about the deadline. After that, generally, they will give you a specific timeline of when you should expect to hear back from them. So you can hear back and see maybe a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, you'll hear back if you are accepted to present. In the case that you are accepted, yay, that's very exciting. You want to prepare for your presentation and practice. And just like anything, I think that practice is very, very important. Presenting in front of colleagues can be very nerve-wracking, and having the opportunity to practice will help you gain that confidence and help you to not just freeze in the moment. And then finally, the time of the presentation, the conference will come along. You will be given a specific time slot and location. So make sure to keep that in mind, and then you'll do your presentation. Now, a few points. As I said, please be aware of the deadline. Be careful to read about the requirements. So conference proposals typically are very strict in their requirements. They may have specific things that they are looking for, such as a word or letter count. Why? It is very important that when you have, for example, all of the different summaries, the abstracts of all the presentations, they need to fit, right? They need to fit within the program. And so they have a specific word count or word amount. Same with the titles, right? If they're printing out the program and your title is way too long, then they are not going to be able to fit your title into the program. And so that's why there are those specific requirements. There may be other requirements that are present, and so it is important to familiarize yourself with that and follow that carefully. And then it's also important to give yourself enough time for preparation and practice. All right, so let's look at the structure of a proposal. What will you typically need when you are submitting one? And we'll have a chance to actually look at an example of this, right, in a moment. But there will be a section where you need to share your name and affiliation. This is obviously to make sure they know who is applying. As I said before, typically in larger conferences, they will remove the names when they are reviewing the proposals to make it fair. But we need your name there, right? So your name, the school or organization that you are a part of, as well as contact details like email address. Now, different presentations or different conferences may want to make sure that it is easy for the attendees to know what kind of general area your presentation is in. So when we think about, for example, TESOL, there are so many areas of TESOL, right? And so it's easier when you can narrow it down to different topics, such as maybe technology, language acquisition, and so thinking about the smaller subcategories is what the content area is. And then you typically have a title, right? This will be the title of your conference presentation. And this is what will be printed on the program. And the abstract. And we will talk a lot about what is the abstract in a moment. But this is essentially a summary of the content of the presentation. Okay. So let's go ahead and let me just quickly show you an example of what a presentation proposal might look like. So you may need to fill out something like a Google form or some other platform, right? So this is the one for the JTE TESOL conference. And you'll note that you're required to share your email, the main presenter, and institution. In this proposal, it also asks what your role is. And if there are more than one presenter, so sometimes at a conference you can have a certain number of presenters. Typically, they will limit the number of people that can present together, but that will be information that is on their website. You can add anyone else that is presenting with you, right? So let's say I am presenting, so I will write my name and my email, and I'm presenting with Megan, and I would add her name and information here as well. Typically, like I said, there are different types of presentations that conferences will have and different lengths of time. So for this conference, there are two kinds, research-oriented and practice-oriented. These are both 25 minutes. Like I said, conferences may have different time lengths, so some of them may be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. So it's important to select the one that is right for you. Next is the content area, like I said. So in TESOL, we have many content areas. Which one would best describe what the topic of your presentation would be? Would it be language classroom content, the 4 skills, technology, right, material and assessments? So you can select one. And then here we go, the title of the presentation. Note that there are specific word counts, right, or letter counts. Here it's 60 characters, and it should be in English. And then the abstract, and note that there is a word count, 100 to 150 words. What I would recommend is if you are typing this all out, put it in a separate Word document or file, and then copy and paste it, because what you don't want is for to be typing here, write my abstract, and then all of a sudden your internet freezes or something happens and you lose all of your work that you've typed out. So I always recommend writing your abstract out separately. That way you can go back, review it, edit it, and also make sure you don't lose any of your work. Okay, going back to the presentation, let's look at abstracts. Now, abstracts have 3 parts to it, typically. And different abstracts vary, but this is one that is very general and can apply to many different types of abstracts. There are 3 parts. The first is the background. The second is the purpose of your presentation. And the third is the scope or objective. So let's go through each of these. The background is 1 or 2 sentences. These are general sentences that explain why is your presentation, why is this topic important, right? So 2 questions to ask yourself is, why should people care about this topic? And what made me interested in this topic anyways, right? So this can be things like problems that teachers typically face in the classroom, recent laws, legislation, or changes to the curriculum, research that has happened or not happened. So here is an example, and this is a presentation that I did do at a conference previously. And so I'll just read this. Teaching English vowel sounds can be challenging for teachers of young learners. Only 6 vowels represent approximately 15 different sounds, and the phonetic symbols commonly used to represent vowel sounds can be difficult for learners. Okay, so what do you notice? This is 2 sentences long. It's generally talking about some of the issues, the background of pronunciation of vowels, right? So I talk about what are the problems that teachers face and some of the information about vowel sounds in English. Part 2, the second part, is the purpose. And this is 1 or 2 sentences describing what is going to happen during your presentation. Of course, this should connect to the background, right? You tell the background to share a little bit of why you are even doing this presentation, right? So what should your audience expect? What will you discuss? And how will you interact with your audience? Is this going to be a lecture style presentation? Is this going to be interactive? Are your audience members going to actually do some of the activities that you will share? Is this going to be a workshop style, right? So you need to make it very clear what the audience should expect to do during your presentation. So here's a sample from that abstract from before. In this workshop, you will be introduced to the color vowel chart, CVC, a pronunciation tool for teaching vowels without phonetic symbols. Taylor and Thompson, 1999. The CVC, or color vowel chart, uses colors and keywords to represent the sounds rather than symbols. Okay, so notice a few things here. 1, it's very clear what kind of presentation this is. This is a workshop. This is going to be more interactive. What will I discuss? I'll be talking about the color vowel chart. I briefly explained what it is because otherwise maybe whoever is reading it may not know what it is if it's very new to them. But I only take 2 sentences, right? I don't go on and on about it. It's very, very short, concise, and clear. And then I go into a little bit more detail, right? How is the color vowel chart different from the phonetic symbols, right? And then part 3 is the scope or the objective, right? Think about what is the takeaway? What will the audience, what will the participants gain from this presentation? Right? What knowledge will they leave with? And what are the main ideas that I want to share? So keeping the end in mind, it's always important for people to know after this presentation, what am I going to be able to do? What am I going to know? So here's from that example. This interactive workshop will provide practical ways to use the color vowel chart in the K through 12 classroom in order to support spoken English at the word level and the phrase level. So it's very clear what people will walk away with after attending this workshop, right? They'll have a chance of knowing how to use it, right, practically, and in what context. So here is that abstract, all 3 parts put together. It is 101 words total, right? And it has all 3 parts. It has the background, the purpose, and the objective of this presentation. Now, I know that I have a citation here because Taylor and Thompson, they were the ones who created the color vowel chart, but you do not necessarily need to have citations in your abstract. Of course, it does make it seem more reliable since you are bringing in sources and it shows that you have done your research, but it's not necessary to include citations in all of your abstracts that you write. So here are some tips about the abstract using the 4 C's. This is first complete. It has all three parts of the abstract, right? Make sure you do not leave one of those out. All three of those are necessary. The next is that it is concise. You have a word limit, right? And part of that is because we want to make sure we are in a limited space explaining what we are going to do. No one wants to read a full page explanation of their presentation, right? There shouldn't be any unnecessary information, and it shouldn't be too wordy. It also should be clear, so it should be well organized and understandable. I would recommend, once you've written a draft of your abstract, ask a colleague or a friend to read the abstract and see if they feel like it is clear what to expect from the presentation you would give. And then cohesive. It needs to, flow smoothly between all of the parts, right? So if we go back to this example, notice that they're connected to one another, right? And that it flows instead of just being clear that it's three separate parts. Questions? Okay, so now that you know what is a conference, what to expect, what you might see there, and how you might write a proposal, you might be thinking, this is all great, but I don't know what to actually do the presentation on, right? And so you may have some questions around what should my topic be about? So here are some ideas. The first is think about what's an activity or a project that you've done in your classes that you think that other teachers would want to try. Maybe it's something that's uncommon, but if it's common, then maybe think about how could you do it differently? What are some differences? You could try a series of warm-ups, activities, exercises, assessments. So I gave that example of like 5 speaking activities you can use in your classes, 3 grammar activities to teach the subjunctive mood, right? So maybe you have certain activities surrounding a specific topic. If you've taken a TESOL course, one of my courses or a different course, then you can maybe talk about how you've learned something in that course and what you applied, right? So maybe you learned about how to give students feedback. And it's also important, I want to encourage you, that it's not just about what worked and went well, but what didn't work, right? Teachers should know the pitfalls. Your audience should know the pitfalls of some of the things that you have tried. And that's part of what's going to help them be able to apply what you're sharing. Another idea is thinking about ways that you have collaborated with JETs or ALTs. This is a great topic to think about, some different collaborative ideas or tools that you've used. And this QR code is a link to a document, writing a descriptive conference presentation abstract. This is kind of a step-by-step of how you might be able to write a presentation abstract. So let me just quickly share what that document looks like. So you can see here, think about what you would present and answer the questions, right? And then it has the 3 sections, the background, the purpose, and the scope or objective. And then here's also a checklist for reviewing your abstract, your draft. So once you have written it, you can go and see, okay, does it have a title? Is it an active voice? Does it start with an engaging background, etc.? So you can go through, and you can do this yourself, or you can ask others to go through and complete this checklist. Oh, great. I have a question here. If my presentation is one of the classroom action-based, should it include a very new finding? It doesn't have to necessarily include a new finding, right? It can be just a new or innovative way that you try something. Or maybe it's not new for you, but you think that other teachers would benefit from how you have taught a certain thing or how you run a certain activity, right? So you don't necessarily need to include research. Of course, that will obviously help you be more reputable and believable, right? And it's always good to make sure that what you are trying is supported by research. But don't feel like you have to include all of these references and you have to take all of this time to like find this research, this new research that's coming out. Great question. Okay, let me go back to this. Okay, so what I will do now is let's take about 5 minutes and I'm going to actually put you into groups, into breakout rooms. And this will not be recorded, but in the breakout rooms, just go ahead and I'd like for you to share 1 or 2 ideas that you might have for presentations, right? And this is just a chance to help each other come up with some ideas. Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing some of your ideas for what you might want to present at the conference. So some next steps to think about is that if you are interested in presenting at the JTE TESOL conference, the deadline for the proposal is February 23rd. There will be 15 slots available, so 15 presentations available. So 15 of the proposals will be selected. And presenters who are selected will be invited to attend an in-person practice. It's not required, but it's just another chance to practice your presentation in front of a real audience on April 23rd. I know that it can be nerve-wracking to present in front of colleagues, so this is just a chance to present so that it's not the first time you give that presentation when you're at the conference. And it's always just a great thing to practice, right? And if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Any questions about the proposal or about the conference itself. Really, this conference, the idea was to develop you as teachers, and you as conference presenters and attendees. And so this is really a chance to try this out in a safe environment. And even if your proposals are not perfect, this is an opportunity for us to work together so that you can write a better proposal. Maybe I will give some suggestions for revisions and things like that. And so don't feel like it needs to be absolutely perfect in order for it to be accepted. So as I mentioned, the theme is TESOL Triumphs, Navigating the Journey to Effective Language Teaching. This will be on May 11th at Lakeland University, Japan, which is in Sumidaku. You can scan the QR code for the submission form. Please check out the conference website for more details about the proposal and for any questions, to answer any questions you may have. Okay. My references. And thank you so much. We still have a few minutes, so I'm happy to answer any questions. You can write them in the chat box, or you can just unmute your mic and ask the question.
Freya Sensei,
Yes,
may I ask questions?
of course.
Someone says in chat box, does it must new one, some, なんだろう、new activity or a new idea or more already everyone knows or something?
That's a
Any?
great question. I think, okay, so let me make sure I understand your question. You're asking if the presentation has to be about a new idea or a new thing, right? And what I would say is that you're more likely to be accepted if it is something that perhaps is not very common. So, for example, maybe many teachers are doing something like pair work with a partner, right? So doing conversations with a partner, pair work, maybe that's something that many teachers already do. So I would recommend either one, thinking about how do you do pair work differently from other teachers, right? Is there some way that you do pair work that maybe is very effective for your classes, or maybe other teachers have not tried? Um, or number two, I would maybe think of a different topic that might be a little bit different or new. It doesn't have to be absolutely brand new. No one has ever done this before. But if it is something that is very, very common and that maybe many teachers may know, then the idea is that in a conference, teachers are attending or people are attending to learn something new, right? So if you are going to be presenting on something that people already know about, then maybe they will not feel like they're learning something new, right? So you can choose a topic or an activity that people already do, but what is it that you do differently? Or what is some research you've done that shows some sort of finding or outcome? I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. For the presentations at the JTE TESOL conference, please do bring your own devices. There will be Wi-Fi, and more information about that will be sent to you once you are selected to present. So you'll have the details of like what kinds of things you will need. But yes, it would be best if you can bring your own device or computer for your presentation. Other questions?
And also, can I ask, okay,
Yes.
is it okay to add the literature review from TESOL Island?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you can add some literature review that, of course, always makes your presentation more stronger because it shows that you have done the research. So in all the presentations I do, I always have some reference page like this. If I have used outside resources, right? One reason is this is academically honest, and this is what we want our students to do, right? We want to make sure we are giving credit to the information, but two, it shows that we are actually have done the research, that we know what we're talking about, right?
Okay, thank you.
If you were unable to make all of this presentation or part of this presentation, or you would like to review this presentation, this video will be posted on the U.S. Embassy YouTube channel. So there will be a link sent out of that. So I want to respect everyone's time. Please do feel free to head off. I will stay just for a minute or two in case there are other questions. I'm happy to stay and answer. But thank you everyone for coming on this weeknight evening and taking the time to do this. I hope everyone has a great 3-day weekend, and I hope to see you at the conference and that I get a chance to read your proposals. Thanks, everyone.